The kingdom of Asterfall had always been a place where sunlight felt like a visitor rather than a resident slipping in through the clouds, only when it could find the courage and leaving as soon as it realized the land preferred shadows. Amid this half-lit world lived Prince Kael, the boy everyone whispered about. The prince born without a heart, not literally, though some swore it must be true, because he carried himself with the same cold detachment as the marble statues lining the palace corridors. His eyes were a shade of storm gray that could freeze a person mid-breath, and rumors said that anyone who tried to get close to him ended up stumbling away with frost settling in their veins. But of course every rumor hides a truth, and Kael's truth was that the heart he once had been locked away, sealed by a curse placed on him before he could even speak a word. For years he lived with the numbness, the hollow nothing that made people fear him. And people fear what they don't understand. That might have been his story forever, prince by title, empty by nature if not for the day I stumbled into his path, the day everything shifted like the world had been holding its breath for too long. I had come to the palace as a healer's apprentice, a girl with more determination than sense, tasked with delivering rare moonpetal herbs to the court. I didn't expect to cross paths with royalty, especially not that royalty, but fate has a ridiculous sense of humor. I turned a corner too sharply, nearly collided with a knight, tripped on absolutely nothing, because that's my signature move, and sent the entire basket of priceless herbs flying directly into the boots of Prince Kael. I froze, every story I'd ever heard about him screaming in the back of my mind. The heartless prince, the cold shadow, the silent storm. I expected him to lash out or at least glare at me with that frostbite stare, but he simply looked down at the herbs, then at me with a tilt of his head like he was studying a puzzle piece that didn't belong in the picture. "You dropped something," he said, voice cool and calm, and somehow that unnerved me more than any anger would have. When he stepped closer to hand me the herbs, I braced myself for the cold. Everyone said touching him felt like pressing your palm to winter. But when his fingers brushed mine, a strange warmth sparked instead, soft and unexpected, like a candle flickering to life in a dark room. He snatched his hand back as if he were the one shocked. His eyes widened, just a fraction, but enough for me to notice. Something had happened. Something small, almost invisible, but enough to shake the balance of whatever curse held him. He turned away without another word, but I could still feel the ghost of warmth tingling in my fingers. After that day, he appeared everywhere I went. Not obviously he'd pass by in the hall while speaking to his advisors, or I'd spot him in the garden where he supposedly never went because he hated anything pointlessly delicate. And once, late at night, when I snuck into the library to return a book, he was already there, sitting alone, staring at the flames in the fireplace as though trying to remember what warmth felt like. He didn't acknowledge me, but he didn't ask me to leave either, and that alone felt like a miracle. Slowly, I learned the truth. He felt nothing. Not joy, not sorrow, not fear, not even hunger properly. The curse had stolen everything that made him human, wrapped him in emotional armor he couldn't remove. But for some reason, when I was near him, cracks formed in that armor. He didn't understand why, I didn't either, but the palace magicians did. They called me to an emergency council meeting, which I wasn't even sure I was allowed to attend, and declared, with far too much dramatic flair, that I might be the key. I laughed, because that sounded ridiculous, but Kael didn't. He spent days avoiding me after that, disappearing so thoroughly I thought maybe I'd imagined our strange connection. Then came the night when he stormed into the healer's wing, cloak soaked with rain, eyes darker than any storm I'd seen. "Come with me," he said, breathless like he'd been running. Please! It was the first time he'd ever said please. The first time his voice carried something like emotion. I followed him to the ancient tower east of the palace, where an inscription glowed faintly on the stone, a curse seal. His curse seal. The moment I stepped close, the glow intensified. "It reacts to you," he whispered. "Explain that." "I can't," I said honestly. "Maybe your curse thinks I'm interesting." He didn't laugh, he rarely did, but he looked at me with something softer than before, like he was searching my face for answers to questions he didn't know how to ask. I placed my hand on the seal, and pain sliced through me like ice turned into lightning. Kael grabbed my wrist, pulling me back, shouting my name, actually shouting, and for the first time, real fear flickered in his eyes. "Don't do that again," he said, voice shaking. "I can't feel anything, but when you touch that," he broke off. I didn't like it. It wasn't much, those words, but for someone cursed into emotional silence, it was practically a confession. From then on, everything changed. Cale sought me out, asked me to walk with him, asked questions about my life, my hometown, my hopes, like he was trying to study what humanity was supposed to feel like. And slowly, the warmth returned to him. First his voice softened. Then his gaze steadied. Then one afternoon in the garden, when I tripped over another absolutely invisible obstacle, seriously, they must follow me, he caught me by the waist, held me close and didn't let go right away. His heartbeat, his actual heartbeat, echoed through his chest, steady, alive, present. I looked up at him, stunned. "Cale," I breathed. "You have a heartbeat, only around you," he said quietly. I don't know why, but I did know. Or at least I suspected. And I suspected even more when he started showing very unprince-like behaviors, such as storming out of a council meeting because someone insulted my profession, or pacing outside the Healer S-Wing for an hour because I'd been late returning from a trip. It all pointed to one impossible truth. The Heartless Prince was falling in love, but curses don't break easily. The stronger Cale's emotions grew, the more violently the curse fought back. Shadows formed around him, whispering threats, trying to claw him back into emptiness. He grew tired, paler, struggling to hold on to the fragile warmth he'd regained. One night he collapsed in the courtyard, the curse seal burning on his skin like molten metal. I ran to him, knelt beside him, grabbed his hand. "Stay with me," I begged. "You're not losing this fight." "Not now," his voice was barely audible. "I can't." "Hold it, it wants to take everything back." "Then take me instead," I whispered. "Take my strength. Take whatever you need. You're not doing this alone. Maybe it was stupid, maybe it was reckless." But I pressed my palm to the curse mark and let it burn. Let it tear through me. Let it drain whatever it wanted. Cale shouted my name, panicked, desperate, and tried to pull me away, but I held on. Because love isn't gentle. It's fierce. It's stubborn. It stays even when everything says to run. The curse howled, cracked, shattered, breaking into 1,000 fading sparks that dissolved into the night sky. And just like that, the world fell quiet. Cale pulled me into his arms, trembling. "Why would you do something so foolish?" he demanded, but his voice was breaking, warm, overflowing with all the emotions he'd been denied his whole life. I smiled weakly. "Because I love you, idiot prince." He let out a shaky laugh, his first real laugh, and rested his forehead against mine. "Then I suppose," he whispered, "I'm foolish too. Because I love you more than my life." And that was the day the Heartless Prince finally got his heart back, because he'd given it to me long before he realized it.